So first up, what we're going to do is let James provide a little background for you, a scholarly perspective on the Tempest. Then I'll have a few words, then Denice has a few words, and then we can open it up to questions from the audience of anyone on stage.
Thank you for inviting me, by the way, and I wanted to once again just say how wonderful this production was, and just from concept to script to the realization and the acting was really wonderful. I really was impressed, and I think that I'm going to clap a little loud. Yeah. This play of Shakespeare's is probably was written in the notes somewhere in here. You know, it's Shakespeare's final play, written in 1611, or at least first performed in 1611, and it's I think in some ways it's unique among Shakespeare plays. It's in theme and some of the issues that it's exploring and dramatizing. And one of those main issues, and I'm probably going to really oversimplify the play, is the relationship between power and freedom. The island, as well as the sea, both provide places that are relatively free from the institutions and the apparatuses of power that exist in Naples and Milan. I'll say right now, it's Milan and Shakespeare, but Milan is to everybody else. But what I think what we get to see there is how people act when they think that they're, I guess, free from power. In other words, you get to see through Antonio and Sebastian how they're going to act when they're left alone with I can't remember names, Alonso and Gonzalo. I have read this play, I think. And but you get to see how they're going to act when they're alone with them. And of course, the first thing they do when they have that kind of freedom is they immediately start to try to gain power. And in essence, and as complex of a character as Caliban is, I guess if Caliban has done something, at least according to Prospero, what he's done with his freedom is he's tried to gain power. And even Caliban confirms that when he says that he would have peopled the island with Calibans had he been able to violate the honor of Miranda. So we get to see people who use their freedom to try to gain a kind of power. Stefano and Trinculo, in a similar way, I guess they provide a burlesque of the ambition of Sebastian and Antonio, and the way they try to use their own freedom to gain power over the island and to rule the island, become king. And you get to see that is turned into a comedy in that case, whereas with Antonio and Sebastian, it threatens to turn into a tragedy. So that's part of the issues that we see here. And of course, the most powerful figure on the island is Prospero. He's the one who actually is controlling. So the island is not a place that's free from power. It's not a place that's free from political structures, but those political structures are invisible. They're taking place behind the scenes or in a way that's controlling them without their knowledge. And what ends up happening is Prospero uses his power in the end to grant people freedom, to grant those people who have wronged him to the freedom and forgiveness, essentially, from what they've done. And that freedom and that he grants them is really not even contingent upon their accepting it. And I think that's why Caliban's word grace at the end of the play is the appropriate word. And Caliban is the one who at the end of the play acknowledges that it is grace and that he will seek for grace from then on. So that's those are, I think, some of the main issues in the play. And I think that I probably have gone on a long time, so let me pass it on. Yeah.
Conceptually, as the director, something that I was trying to achieve and really was greatly helped by our designers and the cast was creating the world that you would enter for this play. We have two worlds. Even though the play takes place on the island the entire time, we have Naples and Milan, which we chose to call it the way it scans in the meter of the poetry. It says Shakespeare's poetry will scan Milan instead of Milan, but it does look like to our eye, Western eye, Milan. We wanted to make it Milan as a place that perhaps doesn't exist and isn't necessarily makes you conjure Italy. but importantly was devising these worlds and creating a contrasting world so that the island was very different than Milan and Naples, where these people were coming from. So one of the ways we achieved that was really trying to make one culture a cold and stoic and restrained culture, being Milan and Naples, and you see that in their costumes and the way they behave, and the island being a liberal location. You can see that in Miranda, how she is so forthright in her love for Ferdinand, and actually she's the one who proposes marriage, it's not the man doing so. So the island having a looser, more organic feel, shapes in clothing all created in that way, so that the island clothing has more of a drape, more of a curve, and that the Milanese or thank you, yes, has more of a structured silhouette. That was very important for us. And the other thing is that because this story feels ancient and it also feels modern, I didn't want to give it a specific time and place that we know of. I didn't want it to be 1850 in perhaps the Caribbean or the Mediterranean Sea. I wanted it to be a devised world that you could enter and recognize, but not necessarily know where exactly in this world we were. So we did that by abstracting the scenery. It has a very organic feel with the fabric and the drape of it, but it doesn't necessarily evoke specific things that you would find on an island. It just has more of an abstracted feel in that way, playing with the metaphor of where we are. It's an isolated location, and this power and freedom struggle happens in an isolated place. Prospero's mind and what is happening in his mind is all restricted from society, and so we are restricted onto this location. So that was something that I was trying to work with conceptually, and then of course the designers and the cast helped enhance and amplify that to great deals. Next up, Denice.
I'm anxious to hear from you all, so I won't say much, but I would like to say that it's been 10 years since we visited this play as a company, and I was anxious to get back to it. And I had originally chosen it for last summer's play, and then budgetary concerns caused us to move it to this winter. And for me, it became a wonderful choice at the end of a decade, at the beginning of a new decade, a great time for forgiveness and examining grudges that we may be carrying over the last decade. Time to let it go. You know, I think Prospero is a great leader in that way, and for someone who has been as wronged as he, who could forgive even family members who had betrayed him, I thought it was a great time for us to look at the story and that particular theme. That's why I chose it. And Claire, I really was anxious to give this young director an opportunity to really spread her wings, and was really thrilled that she was able to direct it at this time.